Top 15 gemstones you're accidentally ruining right now. This gem was once alive, a fossil turned rainbow worth more than gold. But under the wrong light, it starts to die. Why would a stone born from extinction be so fragile that nature itself can't make it again? Every day, collectors destroy their treasures without knowing it. A drop of water, a moment of heat, a ray of sun, and centuries of beauty vanish. Miss this, and you might never see what truly keeps a gem alive. This is the top 15 gemstones you're accidentally ruining right now. A journey through the fragile, breathtaking world of stones that nature perfected and humans keep breaking. If this is your first time here, subscribe and join us, and before these colors disappear forever. Because some stones don't just fade, they remember. Ranked 15th, pearl, the living gem that hates perfume. It breathes, not in the way we do, but through layers of nacre, the same substance a mollusk once secreted to protect itself. Every pearl begins not as treasure, but as defense, a response to pain, to intrusion. The shell tries to heal itself, and in doing so, creates something the world calls pure. But that purity is fragile. For centuries, pearls were the ultimate symbol of untouched perfection. Cleopatra dissolved one in vinegar to prove her wealth. In Rome, generals offered them to the gods of victory. And in the 1920s, they crowned the necks of every debutante from London to New York, the living heartbeat of elegance itself. Yet the very life that gives them their glow is what makes them mortal. When perfume touches nacre, it begins to die. The alcohol eats away the microscopic calcium plates, sweat seeps in, changing pH, hairspray dulls the surface that once shimmered like moonlight. A single touch of chemistry and centuries of cultural perfection collapse into chalk. Under the microscope, that glossy sphere becomes a battlefield, layers flaking, proteins collapsing, color bleeding into nothing. To the naked eye, it looks the same. But the damage is already irreversible. The Smithsonian once cataloged pearls from the wreck of a 17th century galleon. Half retained their glow. The others, turned dull and porous, revealed a secret. Those that were buried in organic oil, whale, olive, or even human skin residue, survived longer than those kept dry. In gemology, it's one of the few materials that ages better when worn, but dies faster when displayed. It's a paradox collectors still debate. Should a living gem be allowed to breathe or preserved in silence? In modern markets, the story hasn't changed. A strand of natural pearls from Bahrain or Mikimoto, once worth $200,000, can lose half its value in a decade, not through theft, but through light, perfume, or time itself. Jewelers now use the term skin contact deterioration, a quiet phrase for slow destruction. The irony is cruel. The same skin that brings pearls to life also erodes them. There's no fix. No polish can restore nacre. Once dissolved, it is gone, molecule by molecule, memory by memory. And yet humanity refuses to stop wearing them. Perhaps because in every fading pearl, we see a reflection of ourselves. Luminous for a while, vulnerable forever. If you've ever owned one of these quiet survivors and never realized how alive it was, let us know below. Because the pearl, unlike a stone, remembers the skin that touched it. What was once the purest surface on earth now carries fingerprints, invisible but permanent. Its beauty doesn't fade all at once. It forgets layer by layer. The pearl remains, luminous and already dying. Some gems die when touched by people. Others die when untouched, when the world around them forgets to keep them alive. Ranked 14th, opal, the stone that dies without water. Under the microscope, light bends and something alive begins to die. Opal isn't a crystal, it's memory suspended in water. Nearly 10% of its body is liquid, trapped in silica spheres so small they scatter color. Without that moisture, the structure collapses, and the colors, the reds, greens, and violets that once danced, vanish into gray dust. In the deserts of Australia, miners once called this opal sickness. They'd watch freshly unearthed stones lose their fire within weeks, as if the earth itself was reclaiming them. A museum in Canberra keeps a record of these losses. Drawers of faded specimens, labeled not by carat or color, but by cause of death, heat, dehydration, exposure. We thought it was alive, one entry reads, but it was only thirsty. Every opal holds a climate. One mined in Lightning Ridge will die faster in New York than in Sydney simply because the air steals its water. That's why ancient traders, from Ethiopia to Hungary, packed opals in damp wool or leaves for their journeys. They didn't know the science, only that the stone lost its soul when it dried. The Romans believed opal carried the essence of all colors, the promise of every other gem combined. But centuries later, jewelers called it cursed, not because it brought bad luck, but because it couldn't survive human touch. Today, thousands of collectors repeat the same mistake, treating opal like sapphire, scrubbing it, heating it, drying it under lamps to make it shine. But every minute of heat pulls more water away, a process invisible until it's too late. Even in auctions, curators whisper warnings. Keep them dark, they say. Keep them damp. The irony is that the more you display an opal, the faster it dies. A stone meant to reflect light can't survive being seen. In gemology archives, they now call this the vanishing spectrum phenomenon. Once the water is gone, the diffraction of color ends. Light hits and passes straight through. What's left isn't fire, it's silence. The drawer is opened every 5 years only to record how much color remains. Less each time. Somewhere inside that decay lies a question for every collector. Should beauty be preserved if preservation itself is the act that destroys it? If you've ever seen an opal lose its fire or saved one from it, tell us below. Because in every fading stone, there's a story about time and touch that no archive can keep alive forever. Recorded, cataloged, preserved. Yet every record is only proof that the living stone is gone. If opal dies when the water leaves it, amber dies when light refuses to let it go. Ranked 13th, amber, the golden time capsule that melts in light. It looks eternal, golden, flawless, immune to time. But under light, amber begins to sweat. The same warmth that reveals its beauty also starts to dissolve it. Amber isn't a gem in the geological sense. It's fossilized tree resin, aged between 20 and 100 million years. What we call stone is the residue of a wound, the hardened tears of ancient forests. Inside, life was trapped. Insects, pollen, sometimes a droplet of blood, sealed in a transparent tomb. For centuries, humans saw it as a vessel of immortality. The Vikings believed amber carried the soul of the sun. The Chinese carved it into talismans to hold ancestral breath. And in the 19th century, jewelers crowned it Baltic gold, shaping it into necklaces meant to last forever. Forever, it turned out, was shorter than they thought. Under heat, amber softens. Under sunlight, it oxidizes, losing its clarity, turning cloudy. The very element that gave it radiance, light, is what kills it. At the Natural History Museum in Berlin, restorers keep amber under red filters to slow its decay. Each year, they measure color shift, from honey to butterscotch to opaque brown, the gradual aging of light itself. In the gem trade, collectors whisper another truth. Every amber will one day melt. Not in hours, but in centuries. A slow alchemy, resin back to resin. That fragility hides in plain sight. Touch it, and your skin oils change their chemistry. Clean it with alcohol, and the surface blisters. Leave it near a lamp, and droplets of ancient sap reappear, sweating through the surface like memory returning to flesh. Scientists have tried to revive its origin, softening amber in labs to extract DNA, a dream immortalized by fiction, Jurassic Park's promise of rebirth. Yet every experiment ends the same way. The structure collapses before the truth escapes. There's a quiet lesson here. The older the light, the more fragile its vessel. What we admire in amber isn't endurance, it's surrender. A material born from loss shining only until the warmth of our gaze undoes it. Even in markets, the irony persists. The finest Baltic amber can sell for $10,000 per kilogram, yet most will crumble if stored under the same light used to display it. Jewelers call it the paradox of permanence. For collectors, it's a constant question. How do you preserve something whose beauty depends on decay? If this stone surprised you, if you ever believed amber was eternal, tell us below. Because in its golden body, time doesn't stop. It only slows, waiting to melt again. What looks solid was once liquid. What we call eternal was only paused. The amber doesn't hold time, it releases it. Some stones melt under the weight of light. Others don't melt at all. They drink everything around them until they change forever. Ranked 12th, turquoise, the sky stone that absorbs everything. It begins the moment you touch it. The color shifts, from sky blue to green, from purity to memory. Turquoise doesn't resist the world, it absorbs it. Chemically, it's a hydrated phosphate of copper and aluminum, soft enough to be scratched by a fingernail. But it's also one of humanity's oldest gems, mined more than 6,000 years ago in the Sinai and the deserts of Persia. Every civilization that found it believed it carried the color of heaven. The ancient Egyptians carved it for the tombs of queens. In Persia, it adorned domes and daggers, sky turned to stone. Among the Navajo and Zuni, it was sacred, worn to protect against lightning, to link earth and sky. What makes turquoise beautiful is also what makes it vulnerable. Its surface is porous, like dried clay, full of microscopic voids. Oil, perfume, and even the salt in human skin seep in, staining it from within. Over the years, the blue turns olive, then brown, not because it breaks, but because it remembers every hand that held it. Traders once prized Persian blue above all others, pure, robin's egg tone, untouched by time. Yet most of those stones no longer exist in that color. They've changed quietly in vaults and jewelry boxes, darkening without a sound. In modern gem markets, the irony continues. To keep turquoise blue, dealers now coat it with resin, wax, even plastic, sealing what was once alive. A gem born from the earth's breath is now wrapped in chemical silence. In that water, the dust dissolves, a trace of copper, aluminum, and memory. Each fragment still reflects a piece of sky. For native artisans, genuine turquoise is never sealed. It must be allowed to change, to share the story of the wearer. To them, a gem that darkens is not dying, it's listening. Gemologists measure absorption in microns. Shamans measure it in lives. Both are right. A gem that takes in everything cannot stay the same. What we call damage, others call transformation. What we call impurity, they call truth. If you've seen your turquoise darken over time, you've witnessed that truth. Not a flaw, but the proof that the sky once rested on your skin. But not every green stone listens. Some reject what the world gives, and in resisting, they fracture themselves. Ranked 11th, malachite, the copper gem that hates moisture. Under a museum's filtered air, malachite begins to fade. The polish dulls, the luster turns matte, a slow surrender carved by humidity itself. Yet it wasn't made to be fragile. This gem was born in water, copper reacting with carbonate over centuries, each drop layering rings of green inside ancient caves. But outside its cradle, the reaction never stops. The same chemistry that creates it keeps destroying it. Long before museums, malachite shimmered inside Egyptian tombs and Russian palaces. Pharaohs ground it into pigment for eyelids and icons. The czars used it to line entire rooms, walls of green light reflecting candle flame. They believed it held the earth's breath, protection from evil, a mirror of rebirth. But in time, that breath became corrosion. Air and water woke the copper within, oxidizing the very veins that once glowed. Even in modern workshops, it resists. A single drop of vinegar leaves scars, a mist of cleaner, and the polish is gone. Jewelers call it the stone that breathes too much. In Congo's Katanga region, where most of today's malachite is mined, workers wrap raw slabs in waxed cloth to slow the reaction before shipment. By the time it reaches Europe, half the surface has already changed tone. Ironically, the more vivid the green, the faster it weathers. The purest copper burns quickest. Collectors call this the patina paradox. To preserve its brightness, you must stop its nature. Inside caverns, where light and air cannot reach, malachite still grows. Layer by layer, molecule by molecule, rewriting what the surface world keeps undoing. Science calls it precipitation. Ancient miners called it resurrection. Both are right. The gem dies every time it meets the world, and is reborn only when the world forgets it. If you've ever watched green fade to gray on a cherished malachite piece, you've seen the same story play backward. A gem that resists, and in resisting, returns to dust. What erodes today is what was born yesterday. Every droplet that made it shine still waits to take it back. But not every blue stone fades due to corrosion. Some lose their color to something far gentler, the light of the very sky they once reflected. Ranked 10th, Lapis Lazuli, the royal blue that fades in sunlight. The color of eternity isn't eternal. For thousands of years, Lapis Lazuli defined what blue meant to civilization. Ground into powder for pharaohs, saints, and kings, it colored the eyes of ancient gods and the robes of the Virgin in Renaissance art. The rarest pigment on Earth, ultramarine, beyond the sea. In ancient Mesopotamia, it was a royal stone. In Egypt, a gateway between life and death. In Europe, the currency of heaven. But every sacred hue comes with a flaw. The sulfur in Lapis Lazuli reacts with air and light, the same light that once made it divine. Slowly, the blue turns dull. The gold flecks of pyrite lose their sparkle. The stone meant to symbolize immortality can't survive the daylight it once embodied. The Louvre holds fragments of blue from Tutankhamun's mask. Under UV, they glow no brighter than dust. Medieval painters treated it as sacred labor. Each gram is worth its weight in gold, washed, purified, and mixed with oils. But even on canvas, the reaction never stops. Over centuries, the richest blues on altarpieces fade to ash gray. Heaven oxidized. Scientists now know why. Pyrite inclusions reflect heat. Calcite impurities scatter light. And the sulfur lattice breaks under UV. What art called eternal was chemically impossible. Still, cultures refused to let it go. From Afghanistan's Sarisang mines, the oldest on Earth, caravans carried it across Persia, Byzantium, and Venice. Traders risked death in deserts for color alone. Today, the same light that once glorified kings now drains their gems. LEDs bleach what torches once revealed. Jewelers hide it behind glass filters. Restorers keep museums dim. They know the truth. Lapis Lazuli doesn't fade from neglect. It fades from admiration. The more we show it, the faster it disappears. If you've ever seen the blue of a painting lose its fire, you've seen this stone's quiet betrayal. The color of heaven surrendering to human light. The stone that once gave light its color now loses color to light. Not even royalty can own a shade forever. But centuries after lapis faded, another blue was born, rarer, deeper, and far less forgiving of heat. Ranked 9th, Tanzanite, the one-mine gem that hates heat. Heat reveals what color hides, and sometimes it erases it. Tanzanite is not ancient. It's younger than most stories about gemstones. Discovered in 1967, in a 6-square-kilometer stretch at the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro, it is the only gem born from a single accident of geology. Metamorphic zoisite struck by vanadium and fire. No other place on Earth has repeated that mistake. Beneath this ground lies the entire world's supply. Every stone ever sold, worn, or cut came from here, one scar in the Earth's crust. Miners say the soil there breathes blue, but they also say the color dies easily. Raw tanzanite appears brown-violet. Jewelers heat it to coax out the indigo flame, a calculated transformation that mimics what nature did only once. Yet that same heat, if pushed too far, destroys what it just created. A few degrees too high, and the blue drains to gray. Under a jeweler's torch, centuries of pressure unravel in seconds. In the trade, they call it color burnout. A beautiful stone, void of life. Inside each tanzanite, the structure is already fragile, trichroic, showing 3 colors at once depending on light. That optical illusion is also its weakness. Change the temperature, and one axis dies. Scientists note its refractive pattern like a pulse. When the heat rises, the pulse stops. Even light deceives it. In daylight, violet. Under the lamp, blue. Under the camera, uncertain. A gem that can't decide what color it wants to be, and loses all if asked to choose. Beyond the science lies another disappearance. The Tanzanian government predicts the mine could be exhausted within this century. Already, tunnels collapse deeper than 1,000 meters, where temperatures reach 50 degrees Celsius, enough to fade the crystals before they're found. When it's gone, there will be no second source. Tanzanite has no twin, no cousin, no alternate vein. A stone defined not by presence, but by absence. The absence of copies. The absence of stability, the absence of time. If you've ever seen Tanzanite's blue flame, you've seen something both new and already ending. It is the youngest gem on Earth, and the first of its kind to vanish in our lifetime. There is no sound when a color disappears, only light remembering where it used to be. But not every green gem fades in silence. Some crack loudly, breaking from the pressure meant to make them beautiful. Ranked 8th, emerald, the fractured beauty of kings. Every emerald is broken, even before it's cut. The fractures inside are not flaws. They are its identity. Gemologists call them jardin, French for garden. Within each crack, fluids and crystals bloom like roots frozen in green glass. It is the only gem where imperfection raises the price. From Cleopatra's mines in Egypt to the Muzo veins of Colombia, kings and conquerors risked armies for a stone that was already damaged when found. To the Incas, it was the eye of the jungle, the breath of the earth turned solid. The Spanish called it the mirror of paradise. In Persia, the gem of renewal. In Mughal India, the color of eternity. Yet eternity came with fractures. Emerald forms in tectonic chaos. Beryl and chromium are forced together by heat and pressure. The same violence that gives it color also tears it apart. That tension never truly stops. Even after cutting, the veins shift microscopically. One vibration too strong, and the gem splits. Jewelers whisper warnings, never clean an emerald in ultrasonic baths. The sound alone can break it. To protect it, dealers soak emeralds in oil, filling its fractures with cedar wood or resin, a ritual repeated for centuries, not to deceive, but to let it breathe again. Every drop of oil seeps into the veins, healing them, temporarily. Without it, light scatters, and the gem turns cloudy. The beauty of emerald lies in its fragility. Kings wore it knowing it could shatter. Shah Jahan carved prayers into its surface. Conquistadors melted it for gold. In every story, emerald reflects power and its cost. The British crown jewels contain one with a fracture across its center. Curators never repaired it. They say the crack itself is history, proof that even royal things break. Modern markets prize clarity, yet the finest emeralds still carry invisible scars. Under the microscope, inclusions look like rivers in motion, as if the gem is still trying to heal. Science sees stress fractures. Collectors see character. Both are right. If you've ever looked into an emerald and seen clouds, lines, or movement, you weren't seeing damage. You were seeing its heartbeat. The crack doesn't ruin the gem. It completes it. What the kings called a flaw was only the place where the light got in. But not every stone carries its wounds inside. Some wear them openly, fading under the very daylight that once revealed them. Ranked 7th, Kunzite, the evening stone that fades in daylight. It was born from twilight and dies in the same light that reveals it. Kunzite's pink glow seems eternal, but it isn't. The hue is only a trick of trace manganese ions, held in fragile balance within its crystal lattice. A few hours under the sun, and that balance breaks. The manganese loses its charge. The violet pink turns ghostly white. Gemologists call it fading, but the process is irreversible. Once the color is gone, it never returns. Discovered in California in 1902, Kunzite was named after George Frederick Kuntz, Tiffany's chief gemologist, who believed it captured the calm of the evening sky. He was right, and wrong. The color does mimic dusk, but only for a while. In showcases, Kunzite quietly fades while no one notices. Jewelers rotate them out every few weeks, replacing pieces already drained of life. For this reason, Kunzite is called the evening stone, meant to be worn at night, when no sunlight can find it. Ancient collectors thought it absorbed emotions. Modern science says it absorbs photons. Both are true. In the 1920s, movie stars wore Kunzite under gaslight, soft enough to glow, dim enough to survive. Decades later, many of those stones are colorless glass. Heat finishes what light begins. Even a short exposure to stage lamps or photo studios is enough to erase its hue. Most gems reflect light. Kunzite remembers it. And memory, for this stone, is terminal. In gemology labs, scientists describe its shade as pleochroic. 3 colors, shifting with angle and light. But as time passes, the range narrows until only one remains, pale, silent, empty. What was once evening violet becomes morning dust. In markets, collectors still seek perfect lilac tones, knowing every purchase is temporary. The finest Kunzite is both a treasure and a countdown. If you've ever seen one lose its blush under sunlight, you've witnessed beauty the way it truly exists, not to last, but to vanish gracefully. But not every violet stone disappears so quietly. Some fight the suns and lose more slowly. Ranked 6th, Amethyst, the purple that dies under the sun. Light was meant to purify this stone, instead it erases it. Amethyst was once thought unbreakable, a gem of clarity, of sober thought. The Greeks wore it to ward off intoxication. The church crowned its bishops with it to symbolize restraint. Its name comes from amethystos, meaning not drunk. Yet time, it seems, made the earth itself drunk with irony. Formed in the volcanic veins of Brazil and Zambia, amethyst is a quartz, colored not by purity but by impurity. Iron trapped in a crystal lattice, irradiated by natural radiation over millennia. That iron gives it its violet flame, and the same iron betrays it. Exposing it to sunlight, the lattice shifts. The iron's color centers disband. The purple fades, from regal violet to rose, from rose to gray, from gray to nothing. Scientists call it photodegradation. Ancient monks called it the fall of virtue. In medieval Europe, it was the gem of bishops and saints. They believed its color came from divine fire, that it absorbed the sins of men and turned them to light. But the truth is more straightforward and crueler. It absorbs light, and in doing so dies. Even today, jewelers store it in drawers, away from display lamps. A few weeks in a shop window can cause a century-old stone to fade. In the gem trade, this slow death is called sun bleaching, a process that doesn't shatter the gem, only empties it. The color doesn't chip, doesn't crack, it simply vanishes. And that's what makes it crueler than breakage, because you don't see it dying. The purple that once symbolized consciousness now symbolizes impermanence. Science can explain the chemistry, but not the sadness of watching a color remember what it used to be. If you've ever seen an amethyst fade in sunlight, you've seen the proof that enlightenment, like beauty, is measured in how long it can resist the light. It was meant to hold light. Now light holds it. But not every stone yields to the sun. Some burn back, holding light until it becomes fire. Ranked 5th, Topaz, the gentle giant with a hidden weakness. Strength doesn't always break with noise, sometimes it just divides perfectly. This is Topaz, a gem so hard it can cut glass, yet so brittle a glance in the wrong direction can destroy it. Formed deep within granite veins, topaz grows as flawless orthorhombic crystals, rigid, symmetrical, precise. Its atomic lattice is bound by aluminum, fluorine, and silicon, a structure so stable that heat and pressure rarely distort it. But nature built it too perfectly. Along one axis there lies a line, invisible, absolute, the cleavage plane. Strike there once, and centuries of symmetry collapse in an instant. Jewelers call it the fatal flaw. The irony, its hardness measures 8 on the Mohs scale, tougher than quartz, nearly as strong as sapphire. Yet one precise impact along that atomic line, and it splits as clean as glass. This fragility is mathematical, not emotional. Perfection turned against itself. The ancients never knew this flaw. To them, topaz was invincible, the stone of strength, a charm against curses and fear. In medieval Europe, knights carried it into battle. In Japan, samurai placed it in sword hilts to steady the hand. They didn't know it could break from a whisper of pressure. The word topaz once meant fire, from the Sanskrit tapas, to burn. Ironically, heat is also its second enemy. Too much exposure turns blue to brown, pink to white. Even in modern cutting studios, one slip of angle, and an entire carat is lost. Collectors say a flawless topaz is a gentle giant. Massive, radiant, and calm until it hurts the most. Deep below where it formed in silence, the fracture never existed. Pressure forged it, time perfected it, and imperfection ended it. If you've ever seen a stone break along a perfect line, you've witnessed topaz. The paradox of strength so exact it cannot bend. It didn't break because it was weak. It broke because it was flawless. But not every gem breaks in silence. Some survive the blow, only to reveal the fractures hidden inside the heart of their color. Ranked 4th, fluorite, the rainbow crystal that melts in water. The rainbow doesn't live forever, sometimes it melts. This is fluorite, a gem so clear, so perfect, that even light forgets where to stop. Under ultraviolet rays, it glows with colors no spectrum can explain. Blue, green, violet, sometimes gold. Yet beneath that radiance lies fragility so extreme that a single touch of moisture can erase it. Chemically, fluorite is calcium fluoride, CaF2, one of Earth's simplest crystalline forms. Its atomic bonds are neat, uniform, symmetrical, and shallow. That order makes it perfect for carving, but also easy to dissolve. Expose it to humidity, and the surface starts to frost. Microscopic corrosion, invisible at first until the polish dulls and color drains. Jewelers call it the melting crystal. Museums call it a maintenance nightmare. In the Natural History Museum of London, every fluorite is kept behind double glass at 20 degrees Celsius and 35% humidity, not to protect people from the gem, but to protect the gem from the air. Its name comes from the Latin fluere, to flow. The same root gave birth to the word fluorescence, a crystal famous for light and doomed by it. Ancient Chinese artisans shaped it into bowls, not realizing they would cloud within years. Romans called it murrhine, believing it was the frozen form of wine. Even today, collectors store it in darkness. Water, heat, even breath can undo it. The irony is complete. A stone that gives color to light cannot survive the elements that made it. In laboratories, scientists record how each specimen fades, charting every degree of gloss loss, a slow archive of vanishing rainbows. The moment moisture wins, the gem returns to powder, calcium dust, colorless, silent. If you've ever seen fluorite glow under blacklight, you've witnessed a miracle that dies the second you stop looking. The rainbow is still there, somewhere in the files. But not every crystal fades in silence. Some refuse to yield, surviving pressure, heat, and time, only to reveal what pressure truly costs. Ranked third, selenite, the angel stone that dissolves in seconds. Some stones guard against the world. This one disappears to join it. Selenite, the angel stone. Named after Selene, the moon goddess, it was believed to carry lunar light, a bridge between heaven and matter. For centuries, priests, healers, and mystics used it to cleanse other crystals, trusting it could absorb darkness without ever keeping it. But purity is a fragile armor. Chemically, selenite is a crystalline form of gypsum, calcium sulfate dihydrate. Its bonds are soft, layered like sheets of frozen breath. Touch it with water, and those bonds surrender. The layers peel apart. The stone turns to dust in seconds. To the untrained eye, it seems unbreakable, luminous, icy, eternal. Yet a single tear can erase it. Gemologists call it the illusion of solidity. The exact molecular symmetry that makes it glow so evenly also gives it no resistance. Under the microscope, selenite is all order and no defense, light trapped in a cage of air and salt. In cathedrals of the Middle Ages, artisans once used it instead of glass. Thin plates called lapis specularis, mirror stone that let moonlight through the walls. Today, most of those windows are gone. Rain took them. Even sealed relics show veins eaten by moisture, edges blunted, script erased. What the church called angelic transparency was only the patience of a stone waiting to return to water. Spiritualists call it a stone that self-cleanses. They're right. It cleanses itself away. The light it holds is temporary, the way frost holds dawn. And yet people keep buying it, not for endurance, but for how it vanishes beautifully. In a world that demands permanence, selenite offers surrender. It is not the stone of protection. It is the stone of letting go. If you've ever watched one dissolve, you've witnessed purity choosing to end itself. The angel doesn't fall, it dissolves. Light returns to what it came from, but not every holy stone dissolves. Some remember fire and keep it trapped beneath a surface so dark that even light cannot escape. Ranked second, halite, the salt crystal people mistake for quartz. It looks eternal, clear, faceted, sharp as quartz. But wait too long, and it's gone. Halite, the mineral name for what the world calls salt. Chemically simple, sodium chloride, NaCl, but visually deceptive. Under light, it sparkles like ice. In museums, it passes for a gemstone. In kitchens, it vanishes before dinner. The moment air touches it, the slow collapse begins. Water pulls sodium and chloride apart, atom by atom, until the perfect cube loses its edge. What remains is not fracture, but absence. Gemologists call this deliquescence, when a solid absorbs moisture from the air until it dissolves into its own tears. In geology, halite forms in ancient seas. Salt is left behind when oceans evaporate. Entire mountain ranges of it lie buried beneath deserts. What once floated in waves now sleeps as stone, and what looks like permanence is only water remembering itself. The Wieliczka salt mine in Poland stretches for 300 kilometers. Cathedrals carved from halite still shimmer underground. Statues, chandeliers, even altars, glowing white, luminous as marble. But each generation of air brings ruin. Moisture creeps through every crack. Figures blur, crystals slump. 1,000 years of art, undone by 1,000 breaths. In some tunnels, workers say they can hear the walls weeping, water condensing, salt reclaiming its original form. Halite is the only gem you can taste, the only crystal the body cannot live without. Yet the exact property that keeps life alive also erases it from the museum shelf. Every cube, every sparkle is a countdown from solid to solution, the perfect mineral, undone by the element that made it. The oldest sea, dissolving in its own memory. If you've ever held a salt crystal and watched it melt between your fingers, you've touched one of Earth's oldest paradoxes, a stone that never learned how to stay. But not every stone dissolves, breaks, or fades. One remains, not because it survives the Earth, but because it remembers every piece of it. In first place, Opalized Fossil, Amethyst, the gem nature can't replace. It looks alive, but it hasn't moved for 70 million years. Amethyst, a gemstone born from extinction. Once it was a creature, an ammonite spiraling through prehistoric seas when dinosaurs ruled the continents. When the oceans died, their shells sank into clay. Pressure turned them to stone. Then water, heat, and minerals turned that stone into fire. Layer upon layer of aragonite, each thinner than a strand of hair, diffracts light like opal, creating colors nature cannot repeat. It is a rainbow trapped in a fossil. Scientists call it biogenic gem. Traders call it Earth's last color miracle. Unlike opal, amethyst isn't formed from silica spheres. Its structure is biological. Nacre reborn as a prism. Each flash of light is a record of ancient motion. The creature's last spiral, frozen mid-turn. Only one place on Earth makes it. The Bear Paw Formation, southern Alberta, where ancient seas turned to shale. 90% of the world's supply lies in a single stretch of riverbed. When that layer ends, there will be no more. Nature can make rubies again. It can grow quartz forever, but this needed a death that cannot be repeated. Under magnification, the surface looks like alien armor. Scientists found that its colors are not just a reflection, they are interference, wavelengths of light locked in fossilized calcium. The red layer is the youngest. The green is older. The violet, oldest of all, light from a time before flowers. The gem breathes in silence, shimmering when moved, dimming when still, as if remembering tides that no longer exist. Collectors call it the living fossil. Dealers call it the one nature stopped making. Both are right. Every color you see is the echo of something that once swam, once fed, once died, and refused to vanish quietly. If you've ever held one and seen it change color in your hand, you've seen time bending to memory. Because amethyst isn't just a gem, it's the afterimage of a life that light refused to forget. Time ends where color begins. From living shells to molten glass, from breath to dust, these are the stones nature still remembers, and the ones she'll never make again. This gem was once alive, a fossil turned rainbow worth more than gold, but under the wrong light, it starts to die. Why would a stone born from extinction be so fragile that nature itself can't make it again? Every day, collectors destroy their treasures without knowing it. A drop of water, a moment of heat, a ray of sun, and centuries of beauty vanish. Miss this, and you might never see what truly keeps a gem alive. This is the top 15 gemstones you're accidentally ruining right now, a journey through the fragile, breathtaking world of stones that nature perfected. And humans keep breaking. If this is your first time here, subscribe and join us before these colors disappear forever, because some stones don't just fade, they remember.